old one down. Actually, let's compare them. Let's compare the two. So you see the diameter there. There's a difference in diameter. See that? See that difference? So the top is flush with each other, but the bottom, look at that difference. So this throttle tube here is bigger, so it take up more cable faster. So that way, when you're riding, your wrist don't have to bend as much. All right. So now I could bring the throttle cable back in. So since the bottom one was the rear facing cable was the tighter one of the two, I'm gonna take that one off first. Or actually, I'm gonna put that one on first. So that's this one right here. Get that one on first. So this is the hard part because this thing is bigger. There's less slack. There's basically less slack for everything. So let's see if I could manipulate this and get this nut or this ball end in first. And just I can see it. I'm right there. Dang it. Oh, dang it. Oh, there it is. I got it in. Oof, that was a tight squeeze. I barely got it in. Just barely got it in. Okay. All right. So from here, I'm going to sort of put the two back together. The two back together here. It's not going to fully come together. The main thing I want to do is make sure that the cables here are the cables here will slide into the slot of the bottom one over here in the slot right here where my fingertip is. Okay, I think it's slid in. Okay, so I'm in. So the two are mostly in, not completely. So now I need to find that hole where there it is, where the throttle grip went in. So now I got the hole. I'm good. So I'm just holding the two together by my bare hands. And I'm testing this out. Okay, it spins freely, so that's good. It's real good. Okay. Now we're gonna actually screw these things back in. Oh, I can see a little difference already from size-wise. So the screws are two screws. Go into this. Where's my screwdriver? Down here. Down on the ground. All right, so let's re-angle this. So oops, just drop the screwdriver. Okay. Like so, man, even without my headlamp, it's dark right now. I can't see what I'm doing. But in this iPhone, you guys see a lot more light than I could see. Wow, I'm very impressed with this new iPhone. Very impressed. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So that flickering you see, that's the LED. The LED is the thing that's flickering. Because instead of staying on, constantly on, and wasting power, it basically it cycles on and off, but it does it so fast that our eyes can't see it. But the thing is, the camera lens catches it because the camera also flickers too in this recording. The flickering from the camera is the frame rate, right? So I think on here I have this camera set at is it 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second, whatever it is. I have it set on the lower frame setting. That way it doesn't use up as much memory. And then, this is not cinematographic. I'm not making a freaking movie here, so I don't care about having 4K or 5K or whatever it is now. I usually do it in what is it, 740? No, 730 or whatever. I forgot what it is now. 7 whatever versus 1080. 1080 is pretty much the normal HD. But I use the smaller one, the 7. I think it's 720 or 780 or whatever it is. I usually use that one, so it saves memory. Okay, so screw it in. Make sure it's tight enough. Okay, so there's a move there, and this thing moves. So I'm good here. I didn't touch anything else, right? Make sure all my switches are working. Everything seems to be okay, in order. Now for here, for the throttle grip. So here's the difference here. See that? This tube is actually longer than my factory tube. What's my factory tube at? This tube is actually longer than my factory tube by it looks like close to ½ inch, maybe, yeah, about ½ inch, give or take a few millimeters. So it's a little bit longer. So I might have to end up cutting this tube a little bit. I'm probably gonna use a what am I gonna use to cut this? I'm probably gonna use like a pipe cutter. I have a pipe cutter that I'm gonna use to cut. I could use to cut this. You know, like a PVC pipe cutter. So it'll probably work on this, because this might be kind of soft, but yeah, it should work. So I have to cut it down a little bit and squeeze this in. Let's see if my weight actually fits in there. Let's take the screw off. If the weight fits in and it clears, nope, it doesn't fit. It's too deep. Nope. Okay, so yeah, I definitely have to cut this. So I do that in a little bit, but in the meantime, I have to tighten the nut back down here, but I can't just tighten the nut down, you know, down where the throttle body is over here. I just can't just tighten the nut because the slack changed. The amount of slack in the line that changed. So it's possible that I actually might have to take the plastic off and make that adjustment on that slack, on the slack point. So we'll see. Shoot, I didn't think about that. I did not think about that when I was putting this in. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys can see nothing. But something's better than nothing, I suppose. I can see that nut too. I can see that adjusting nut on the bottom. So let's look at it again real fast. So there's the oops, let me change the angle of the camera here. So you can see the adjusting nut up on the top. Use my screwdriver to point. So you see the adjusting nut right here, right there, and you see the slack. Because the throttle body tube is bigger, it took up more slack. So this nut here on top, but underneath this bracket here on the other side, there's another nut. And so this thing had a lot of slack, right? So the throttle body tube took up the slack. So when I bring this top lock nut right here down, it won't come down as far as it did before. So that means the nut on the bottom has to go up. So that's where it's gonna be difficult. I think I have enough space down here where I could stick my finger down in here, or stick like a little flathead screwdriver or something, and spin it, and slowly spin it. You know, take whatever amount of time, spin it. Then I can lock this back up. That way I don't have to take off all the plastics. So I think that's probably the best way to do that. And I'm probably gonna do that off camera, because it's probably gonna take me like 20 minutes just to do that. Again, this is because I'm lazy. I don't want to take off all this plastic, because to take off this plastic here, you have to take off this one back here. You have to take off this one right here. I'm not sure what else you have to take off. It's because underneath here, it's not just a red plastic. It's actually there's a black plastic. So you have to take that off, and I don't know what else you have to take off, but that's a lot of stuff to take off for one little nut. So if I can reach this with my bare hands, my bare fingers down in here, or with a little flathead screwdriver or something, I will. I'd rather do that instead. So I'm gonna do that off camera, and I will come back to you guys. All right, so let's look at what I have here. So I was able to take this nut down. Get a screwdriver, use it as a pointer. I was able to take this nut down. Right, so if you remember looking back earlier in the video, you saw that. Trying to get good lighting in here. You saw that this lock nut on the bottom to the adjuster nut up here, there's a huge gap. There's like, you know, probably 3/8 of an inch of a gap between the two. So what I did, because I couldn't really reach the bottom nut, you know, underneath this bracket. So how the bracket is made is that it's made like this, like a U. It's made like a U. So the way the bottom nut, when it goes into that U actually holds the nut in place. So what I did was I actually from underneath here, I actually was able to reach my finger in here, because this plastic piece right here, this piece right here, this piece that's moving right here, this little piece where my screwdriver head is, that's plastic. You actually push this aside with your finger, and from there I actually pushed up on the on this piece here from the bottom, so that way the nut on the bottom underneath the bracket will fit into the slot of that U, right? So from there, that nut on the bottom is basically being held, and I was able to reach in here into this top nut here, this adjuster nut with an 8mm. I turned it, and that took, you know, like 10 minutes or whatever it was. And I was able to get now down here I only have like 2, maybe 3mm of space between the two, between the lock nut and adjuster nut. So it went from like 3/8 of an inch to like, I don't know, maybe an 1/8 of an inch now, or maybe even less than 1/8 of an inch. So that's why I have it. Okay, so basically I didn't have to take anything apart here. I was able to do, you know, squeeze it all in, because I did not want to play around with messing with the plastics and stuff, because, you know, the thing with these plastics is that they're hard to get off, you know, especially getting off in one piece, because they have like these little tabs everywhere. Sometimes if you don't do it right, those tabs will break, right? So okay, so let's look up at the top here. Let's look up at the top here. Let me adjust my tripod over a little bit, my light. So here I have my so whenever you tighten up those cables, you have to account for some slack, so that way, you know, the cable doesn't bind. So because if it binds, what happens is it could pull on those cables and it could open the throttle on you, you know. So you don't want that. So what I did was, you know, you move the handlebar from left to right, you see which side is tighter. So in this case, for my bike, turning the handlebar all the way to the right takes up all the slack, and it, you know, basically takes up all the slack. If I turn it to the left, I actually have more slack. So turning it to the right, I have less slack. So I turned it all the way to the right, and I adjusted those cables on the bottom where the you know, what I just showed you guys a minute ago. So that's all the slack is taken off, and now I have just a little bit of movement, not too much, just enough that I have the cable won't get pulled, and the throttle won't open up when I'm, you know, all the way to this side, you know, pointing to the right side. So a little bit of slack there, and there's my turn. Right? Doesn't feel that much difference, but there will be a difference. You know, especially when I actually ride it, that's when you feel the difference. You guys saw earlier that the difference in diameter where the cable wraps around. This one is thicker. So earlier I had mentioned 14%. It might not be 14% of taking the slack, or taking the, or you know, feeding in the cable. What I'm thinking is that it's probably 14% larger in diameter is what I'm thinking. Because the difference was, you know, it seems to be about that much, you know, about 14%. So that's what I'm thinking is what that they're referring to. Because, you know, again, I don't read Japanese, so it says 14. I just saw 14%, so I'm not sure 14% of what, you know, what does that mean. So now all I need to do is cut my my end tube here. Right, the end tube here, there's there's still that, what, ½ inch or so of space. I need to cut this down, so I need to get my PVC cutter and cut this down. So stay tuned for that. All right, so I have my grip there, right? I have a PVC pipe cutter right here. So that's what I'm gonna use to cut this. I'm just gonna eyeball where it is. Cut it just shy of the, well, actually I'm gonna use my fingers. I'm gonna basically put it in right here so that way I can know where my the blade is. So I'm just go like that. Okay, so that's where it is. I'm gonna back it off just a little bit. And basically, hopefully this will work. The problem is that this is very soft and very flimsy, so it doesn't hold up very well. But the thing is, it's the handlebars in there, so then hopefully it'll hold the other end up okay. Okay, so the initial breakthrough, once it breaks through, and you saw that it was squeezed, and now it sprung back. So that's a good thing. So there's at the end. There we go. Cut it. And it's still I can still see the little deformation of this end right here. You guys can probably see it too, which is fine. So I'm a little shy of, I'm probably a few millimeters shy of the bar end. So I have this tool here. This is actually for like copper pipes. And when you cut copper pipes, it leaves a burr. This right here will deburr it. So I'm gonna use this to actually deburr this. But it's not gonna work very well with this end deformed. It needs to be, it works better when everything's round. So let me try to kind of push it back with my fingers here, so I could feel the, a little bit of a burr. So one is for the ID and one is for the OD. So you want to use the OD side, obviously. And this thing spins like this. So basically, it's like a right-handed tool. So I'm gonna hit like this. I'm gonna go like this. So really lightly, because this is, after all, this is only plastic. It doesn't need much. Move over to this side. It's kind of awkward position for me right there. So this side should be a little bit easier for me to do it. So you have to be mindful when you use this thing, because what it tends to do is it tends to kind of go cockeyed on you, especially if it catches something. If it catches like a little groove or whatever, like this right now, it just went cockeyed. So I have to be very careful when I'm doing this. It's catching right here. Maybe this plastic is too soft. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't want to do it. It's like it's biting too much. It's actually digging in too much. Spinning it backwards doesn't do nothing, because it's not the proper cutting angle. Okay, so that's not gonna work. Man, actually, I think that made it worse. It's digging in. It's biting too much. I just want to do this like really lightly, but it seems like I can't get it. Yeah, I can't get it. Okay, now I think I made it worse. Okay, maybe it might be better to just get like a fine file and file those down. I'm not gonna worry about it right now. I think I'm okay. Where's my grip? So I think I'm okay. So I'm gonna try lining up this grip, see how much in there I'm at. So I push the grip all the way to the end here. It just about covers, which, well, actually you don't want to do, because the grip here at the end, see how this little lip right here, this lip right here actually will stay on the outside of the plastic. So if I do that, I have just enough space right here. So actually I'm good. So basically the space here, if I push this tube all the way in, the space here between here and the end here is probably about 3 millimeters. Not 4, I wouldn't say 4, probably about 3 millimeters. So that's good there. I have the old grip glue on this thing, because this is I took this off from another bike. Old grip glue. And actually that grip glue was actually meant for grips, but it didn't hold up very well. It seemed to slip. So what I'm gonna use instead, I was gonna use some gasket material, but I actually have this black weather stripping 3M. This is the same stuff that you use for automotive windows. sometimes on windows, when you put like in a new window, you need the adhesive there. This is the same exact stuff. So that's what I actually bought this thing for when I had it on my pickup truck, when I replaced the non-sliding window with a sliding window. You know, on a pickup truck you have that little back slider that opens up in the middle. So before, my pickup truck, it was just solid. So I went to Pick and Pull and bought a sliding one with a window you open in the middle. So that's where I got this thing for that purpose. Oh, shoot. So this smeared really lightly on here. This stuff sticks pretty strong because again it's used for windows. So the adhesive on it is pretty strong. You don't need much, just a very thin coat. So very thin coat, that's all you need. I try to avoid the last inch or so right here, because as you pull this in, it's going to be built up and it's going to smear over to this. You know, it's going to smear over to one side. So you put more towards the end here, so that way when it smears over to the inside over here. I don't really put this on the inside of the grip, because if you put it on the inside of the grip here, it builds up and it will just kick up in this opening right here. So that's why I don't do that on that side. Oops, where did I put the cap for this thing? Let's have the cap. Where did the cap go? Oh, there it is. Oops, did my sweater touch it? Nope. All right, so let's put this on. And this thing takes, I think, like a certain amount of time to cure and you know, and harden. So you have to give it that time once you put this on. Otherwise, it won't. You know, because right now, because it's still wet basically, it hasn't cured yet. It will still freely spin. So now when looking at my gap right here, I have just less than 1/8 of an inch right here. So that's good. That's perfect. Pushing the plastic tube in, I have about a 1/16 of an inch. If I pull it out, I probably have about 3/32 of an inch. So less than an 1/8. And right here, this right here lined up perfectly with that tube. So that's perfect. That's good. So I'm good there. So this over here, I'm gonna put this in. Let's see. Let's see. I don't see it lining up. Let's see, where's that? Oh, there it is. So it's on top. Let's see. Let's put this right here. Okay. Okay, it's lining up. Let's put this in with the impact driver. So remember that little step right there at the end. You have to make sure that you line up with the inside the grip here. Let's see. Right. Oops. Right there. So again, it's spinning. Remember when I was taking this off, it was spinning. Let me set this thing to a faster speed. Or was I holding this? Maybe I was holding this. I forgot now. Oh yeah, that's what I was doing. I was holding this. See if this works. Okay. Well, that should work. Yeah, so the gap right there is good. Okay, so let's look at it. Let's look at how this worked out. So you see my little gap right here, right? If I push it in, that's about 1/16 of an inch. If I pull it out, that's about 3/32 of an inch. And right here, this gap right here is it's probably about 1/8 of an inch, like that. So that compared to this side, so that space right there is actually, this space is even bigger than the. So this is the original right here. This space is actually even bigger than the other side, and right here it's pretty much touching. And this you don't want, this side you don't want to touch, because you know because this thing is spinning, so you don't want it to touch, you don't want it to interfere. That's it. That's my quick throw or quick turn throttle tube from Kitako. I got from WeBike. If you look up the part for the Monkey or the Super Cub or the CB300R, it was the same tube. That's the same tube I use for all of them. All right, so that's it. I'm done. Thanks for watching.